Piertotum Locomotor. Piertotum Locomotor is the moment every Potterhead sat up and realized Hogwarts had been hiding a fully operational medieval security system this entire time. In Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows, the battle is about to begin. Dumbledore is gone. Voldemort is outside. The vibes? Apocalyptic. Then Professor Minerva McGonagall steps forward, points her hand at the statues lining the castle walls, and calmly says,
Piertotum Locomotor!
Suddenly, every suit of armor, every stone knight, every gargoyle with centuries of silent judgment springs to life, like Hogwarts just activated defense mode. Stone feet step down from pedestals that have held them for centuries. The corridors echo with the heavy thuds of marching armor as ranks of enchanted guardians begin to move, making their way toward the battlements to defend the castle they have silently watched over for generations. Then, with the quiet satisfaction of someone finally checking off an item from a centuries-long to-do list, she adds, I've always wanted to use that spell. By the end of that scene, the one thing is clear. Dumbledore may have been the most powerful wizard of his time, but Minerva McGonagall stands right beside that legacy. She's the woman who turns a school into an impenetrable fortress without breaking a sweat. Fun fact, Piertotum Locomotor is the same kind of animation magic used to bring the life-size wizard chess set to life in Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone. And if you read the books, you'll know Albus Dumbledore later uses similar magic to animate the statues of the Fountain of Magical Brethren to protect Harry during his duel with Lord Voldemort at the Ministry. Fire spells. Not all magical fire is created equal. Deathly Hallows gives us 3 different flavors, each progressively worse for anyone standing nearby. First, Incendio and related fire conjuring charms simply produce flames. Less catastrophic, but still a very clear signal that the conversation is over. Then there is Confringo, the blasting curse. Hermione Granger uses it during the Tottenham Court Road Cafe duel to send explosive bursts of fire at attackers. Finally, Fiendfyre. This is a cursed semi-sentient magical fire that devours everything in its path. In the Room of Requirement, Vincent Crabbe unleashes it while chasing Harry Potter for the diadem. The result is a gigantic inferno shaped like serpents and beasts that quickly proves impossible to control. The weird part about Fiendfyre is that even the wizard who casts it can't control it, and can even be killed by it. Sorry, Crabbe. Expecto Patronum. Expecto Patronum is the ultimate getaway from Dementor's spell. It conjures a Patronus, a magical guardian that not only blocks Dementors, but also chases them off entirely. In Deathly Hallows, members of the Order of the Phoenix use it repeatedly during battles and ambushes to protect themselves and others, turning fear into literal silver light. Harry famously casts his stag Patronus, while Hermione Granger, Ron Weasley, and other Order members summon theirs to defend the group against Dementors and minor dark creatures during skirmishes. One fun fact about Expecto Patronum: Patronuses are deeply personal. They reflect the caster's inner character. Trying to force one without happy memories usually fails. It's also the ultimate get-lost creepy soul sucker's spell, turning despair into dazzling corporeal silver light. In essence, it's hope made magic, and arguably the most cheerful way to fight fear in wizarding battles. Salvio Hexia. Salvio Hexia is basically wizarding bug spray for hexes, a magical perimeter that politely tells hostile spells to take a hike. The incantation creates a protective enchantment around an area that deflects or weakens incoming hexes, making it perfect for setting up a temporary safe zone when enemies might be lurking nearby. In Deathly Hallows, Hermione repeatedly casts Salvio Hexia while camping with Harry and Ron during their Horcrux hunt. She layers it on with other defensive spells around their tent, so Snatchers, Death Eaters, and random dark magic cannot easily ruin their night. Not the flashiest spell in the series, but when the entire wizarding world is hunting you, magical bug spray suddenly becomes essential surviving gear. Obliviate. Have you ever wished you could just erase all those embarrassing moments that kept you up at 2 a.m.? Well, that's exactly what the Obliviate spell or memory charm is for. Point your wand, cast the charm, and poof! Specific memories vanish from someone's mind like they never happened. In Deathly Hallows, this spell gets some heavy use. First, Hermione Granger uses it on 2 Death Eaters, Dolohov and Roll, in a London cafe after an ambush, wiping their memories to keep the trio off their radar. But in Deathly Hallows Part 2 comes the gut punch moment when Hermione casts Obliviate on her own parents. erasing her existence from their minds to protect them from Voldemort. Being a superhero in the wizarding world is not exactly a chill career choice. Did you know Obliviate is the go-to spell for dealing with Muggle witnesses? Saw a wizard performing magic on a train? Even spotted a house elf doing the laundry in the open? Obliviate. Saw someone cheating? Yeah, maybe let that memory stay and grab popcorn for the drama. Repello inimicum. When the Battle of Hogwarts begins, subtle magic goes out the window, and the castle's defenses go into full lockdown. One of the key spells used is Repello inimicum, literally meaning repel the enemy. So, if you're running from an X, this is your spell go-to. In Deathly Hallows, Minerva McGonagall leads the effort to shield the castle, casting Repello inimicum alongside Protego Maxima and Fianto Duri to reinforce Hogwarts' magical perimeter. Together, these spells strengthen the castle's defenses and create powerful barriers around the grounds. Unlike standard Protego spells, which mainly block incoming attacks, Repello inimicum is designed specifically to push enemies away from a protected area. Arresto momentum. Arresto momentum is the wizarding world's emergency brake. The spell slows the motion of a falling object or person, reducing impact before gravity turns the situation into a hospital visit. In Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows, the spell appears during the infiltration of Gringotts' wizarding bank. As the trio escapes on the back of the dragon, they leap from a massive height into the lake below, and Harry casts Arresto momentum to slow their fall before impact. Not the flashiest spell in the series, but when you are plummeting off a dragon, flashy is not the priority. Survival is. Real Potterheads might remember first seeing Arresto momentum clearly in Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban, when Albus Dumbledore silently casts it to save Harry Potter after Dementors knock him off his broom during a Quidditch match. Expelliarmus, the disarming charm that every fan, newbie, or veteran knows by heart. Point your wand, swish, yell, Expelliarmus, and bam! Your opponent's wand goes flying through the air like a confused owl. Harry first learned it during a practice duel with Draco in Chamber of Secrets, and from that moment on, it's basically his go-to in every duel. In Deathly Hallows Part 1, Harry's Expelliarmus moments reach legendary status. First during the Battle of the Seven Potters. Picture this, Harry flying through the sky, pursued by dark wizards willing to throw every lethal curse imaginable, and he disarms them mid-air. Epic, right? But deadly too, because that spell lets Snape identify the real Harry. Then the ultimate mic drop, Part 2. Harry uses it against Voldemort himself, the Dark Lord, the most powerful wizard of all time, and the boy who lived wins with a single Expelliarmus. Imagine decades of magical dominance undone by a spell you learn in second year. Makes sense, right? And this is exactly the moment Voldemort probably wished he could just obliviate himself. High-key iconic. Hominum revelio. Hominum revelio is essentially a human radar spell. Cast the charm and you can instantly tell if another human is nearby. Instead of flashing bright colors or exploding in sparkles, this spell simply reveals the presence of people around you. The first time we see it in Deathly Hallows is when Hermione uses it after the trio arrives at 12 Grimmauld Place, to check they aren't walking into a Death Eater party. Sometimes nothing happens because there's literally no one there. The spell is simple, tactical, and perfect for stealth checks. Think of it as magical people-spotting technology that is way better than yelling, "Is anyone here?" in a spooky old house. Fidelius Charm. The Fidelius Charm is one of the most dramatic secrecy spells in the wizarding world. It doesn't just hide a location or a fact, but locks the secret inside a person's soul. That person becomes the secret keeper, and nobody, not even the people being protected, can reveal the secret unless the keeper allows it. Think of it like wizarding witness protection on magical steroids. Remember when the Golden Trio escaped Malfoy Manor in Deathly Hallows and landed at Bill and Fleur's Shell Cottage? That cozy hideout wasn't just charming. It was under the Fidelius charm with Bill Weasley as secret keeper, invisible to prying Death Eaters. It was basically a magical do not disturb zone. Safe, secret, and Death Eater proof. Here's some Potterhead trivia. Fidelius is the same charm that hid James and Lily Potter's house during the First Wizarding War. Even when Voldemort, with his nose pressed to every window, well, when he still had one, in Godric's Hollow couldn't find them until the secret keeper Peter Pettigrew revealed the location to him. Sectumsempra. Sectumsempra is one of those curses that isn't technically classified as dark, but it really should should be. Invented by Severus Snape while he was still an emo Hogwarts student, the incantation Sectumsempra creates wounds as if its invisible sword were slashing its target. It follows the movement of your wand, causing deep gashes and severe bleeding that can be fatal if not treated immediately. In short, this spell is dangerous, unpredictable, and definitely not something you casually throw out at duels. Canonically, we see it in action during Deathly Hallows when Snape uses it in the Battle of the Seven Potters, accidentally cutting off George Weasley's ear. Fan theories suggest it might even have been the curse Voldemort used to slash Snape's throat at the very end. Here's a bit of lore. Snape originally wrote this spell in the personal annotated copy of Advanced Potion Making book. During Half-Blood Prince, Harry discovers it, sees the note, "For enemies," and uses it on a completely unsuspecting Draco. Seriously, Harry, just because you can doesn't mean you should. Relashio. Relashio is the spell you use when you want someone or something to let go fast. It forces release and often produces fiery bursts, especially underwater, making it perfect for escape situations. In Deathly Hallows, the spell is used by the goblins during the Gringotts break-in, when Harry, Hermione, and Ron need to escape from the dragon after retrieving Hufflepuff's cup. Goblins use Relashio to trigger underwater explosions, knocking guards and obstacles aside and giving the trio a chance to flee. Simple, effective, and a little dramatic. It's less about finesse and more about get me out of here before I become dragon food. Avada Kedavra. Avada Kedavra is the big red button of spells. Instant death with zero recovery. It's basically a magical you're fired from life. Say the words, green light flashes, target drops, game over. Well, unless you're Harry Potter, of course, and you have a loving mother ready to sacrifice her life for you, or, a giant rock in the way. In Deathly Hallows, Death Eaters and Lord Voldemort spam it all over the Battle of Hogwarts. Neville nearly takes one before deflecting it with guts and bad timing. Fred Weasley gets hit square in the chest. Rest in peace. Crucio. Crucio, the torture curse that does not mess around. It inflicts excruciating pain without leaving a scratch, turning your opponent into a screaming, writhing mess. In Deathly Hallows, Death Eaters use it during the Battle of the Seven Potters and the Battle of Hogwarts, not to defeat enemies but to make them regret every life choice that led them here. Unlike Avada Kedavra, victims can survive, but sometimes surviving feels worse than being dead. Canonically, Neville Longbottom's parents were tortured with Crucio and lost their sanity. Not so fun fact, in the book, J.K. Rowling describes the curse as pain beyond anything Harry had ever experienced. His very bones were on fire. His head was surely splitting along his scar. He wanted it to end, to black out, to die. Ouch. Imperio. Imperio is the control curse. Say Imperio and the victim's brain becomes your remote control. It's less about pain and more about turning free will into a suggestion with a very ugly punchline. In Deathly Hallows, it's used on pious thickness at the ministry so Death Eaters can walk through the front door like they have appointments. Imperio also hits goblins during the Gringotts break-in, so the dragon doesn't immediately vaporize everyone. One interesting fact about Imperio is that victims under Imperio can be utterly convinced they're doing something normal, like a muggle trying to assemble IKEA furniture. Disillusionment Charm. The Disillusionment Charm is magical camouflage. Cast it on yourself or someone else and you become nearly invisible, blending seamlessly into your surroundings. Great for disappearing when someone says, "We need to talk." In Deathly Hallows, the trio uses it repeatedly during their Horcrux hunt, slipping past Death Eaters, Snatchers, and anyone else who might ruin their day. It's perfect for sneaky movement or escaping sticky situations without anyone noticing. Here's a warning. Disillusionment charms don't just make you completely invisible. It's more like being a wizarding chameleon. Clothing wrinkles and movement can still give you away. In other words, it's excellent for stealth and basically Hogwarts-approved hide-and-seek magic, with real life or death stakes. Protego spells. Protego Totalum and Protego Horribilis are basically wizarding military-grade spells. They blanket entire areas, turning forests, tents, or even Hogwarts itself into nearly impenetrable magical fortresses. In Deathly Hallows, survival isn't always about flashy duels or dramatic wand clashes. Sometimes it's about sitting back and saying, "Not today, Death Eaters," while hidden behind an invisible, nearly indestructible shield that does all the heavy lifting. Remember the shimmering blue shield around Hogwarts during the battle, showing the spells holding holding back Death Eater attacks? Yeah, that was Protego Totalum, the spell that creates a broad defensive barrier, while Protego Horribilis reinforces it against dark magic. Harry, Hermione, and Ron also use the Protego spells on a smaller scale while camping across Britain during their Horcrux hunt, with Hermione layering protections around their tent to keep Death Eaters, Snatchers, and other unwelcome visitors at bay. Geminio Charm. The Geminio Charm, also called the Doubling Charm or Duplication Charm, is basically the wizarding version of a photocopier. Point your wand at an object, say Geminio, and suddenly it multiplies. Touch it again, more copies. Touch it one more time, you get it. In Deathly Hallows, this spell hits hard twice. First as a curse during the iconic Lestrange's Gringotts vault heist. The Golden Trio go in for Hufflepuff's cup. But everything they touch starts doubling. Every coin, every trinket, every cursed ornament explodes into copies until they're almost drowning in treasure. Panic level? Expert. Second time, Hermione uses it as a charm, not a curse, on the Slytherin locket in the Ministry of Magic. Cleaner application, fewer near-death experiences. Still ridiculously powerful though. Not so fun fact for wizards planning on using Geminio as an instant money glitch. The duplicates are worthless. They tarnish, rot, or break faster than a chocolate frog in summer. Sorry, Weasleys. Merlin's beard. You survived this lesson. Then you're ready for the next one. All 10 major events after the Deathly Hallows explained. Watch now before Snape starts screaming your name.